everyone. My name is Dar Rath and I'm the pastor at Faith Lutheran Church in Port Elgin, Ontario, Canada. Each week I bring you a story that takes about 5 minutes to watch. The story this week is from a book called Flowers in the Wind by Robert Coos. And it's a really interesting story. It's about temptation. And here we go. Stories about temptation are always relevant because every one of us is tempted every day to do things we know we should not do. When we give in, we generally make things worse for our lives. That is what we see in the following story that is called The Nose of the Camel. There was once an Arab who was riding his camel across the desert. As they traveled, the wind began to get stronger and stronger. The Arab knew that soon the wind would be so bad that blowing sand would completely block their view. Therefore, the Arab stopped and quickly put up his little tent. After the tent was up, the Arab got inside where it was calm and safe from the storm. Soon the howling desert wind lulled him to sleep. After he had been asleep only a short while, he heard a noise from his camel. His camel, named Fatima, had struck her nose under the flap of the tent. Fatima said, "Master, the wind is very strong outside and it's getting very cold. Is it okay if I let my nose stay inside your tent?" The Arab said, "Certainly. There is certainly enough room in this little tent for your nose to keep warm." After saying that, the Arab went back to sleep. Soon, however, Fatima said, "Master, would it be okay if I just let my front legs come into the tent? It's getting colder and colder outside." "Certainly," replied the Arab. The Arab then scooted over a bit, for the tent was quite small. Soon afterwards, however, the camel woke up the Arab again and said, "I hate to bother you again, but the desert night is absolutely freezing. May I bring my whole self into the tent?" The Arab replied, "Okay, Fatima, come on into the tent completely." So Fatima moved herself into the tent. Together, the Arab and Fatima hardly fit. Soon the Arab was sound asleep. When he woke up, however, he was amazed to find himself not inside the tent, but rather outside in the cold. The camel, meanwhile, was as snug as she could be, having the whole tent for herself. Now, nobody knows the exact origin of this story, but certainly is a good one, for it gives us a vivid image of how powerful temptation can be. Here are some things we can learn from the concept of temptation. I think most people would agree that it's easier to prevent temptation than to confront it. We hear the same principle in terms of health and illness. For example, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And we daily pray, lead us not into temptation. Many people, for example, play head games, deliberately flirting with trouble. People on weight loss diets, for example, do this all the time. They might go to the grocery store and instead of buying a little pie that has 330 calories, they buy a regular sized pie with more than 1,900 calories. They rationalize that this is purchased by saying, "Well, I'll just have one piece." That is like the person who buys a huge bag of potato chips saying they will only eat one serving, 4 chips. No way is that going to happen, for once we give in to pure pleasure, it is very difficult to stop. It's much easier to avoid buying the pie or the chips to begin with, or simply to buy a small package to kill the craving. Second, all of us face temptations every day. Our lives are filled to the brim with things we would like to do wrong. When I say this, I'm not talking about biggies such as robbing a bank or killing people. Rather, I'm talking about telling off one person who is aggravating us or engaging in delicious gossip. So delicious that we think we would burst if we didn't tell someone. Because we find temptations all around us every day, We shouldn't go looking for new temptations to battle. In other words, don't go looking for trouble. Another thing, don't get discouraged when you fail to overcome a temptation. We all fail from time to time. Rather than becoming discouraged, pick yourself up and move on. Well, there's a really neat story about temptation, especially the story about Fatima the camel working her way into the tent and leaving her Arab outside in the cold, and she was snug as a bug in the tent. That's a fun story, but it's true about temptation, isn't it? I gained 25 pounds during COVID, and I have been trying ever since to try and get those 25 pounds off. And so I know exactly what temptation is. I do it almost every day with cookies and with sweets. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story. Thanks so much for taking 5, and blessings on your day.